The title of the film is undisputed too. The film starts at a Russian maximum security prison. There was a tough wrestler called Yuri Boyka, incarcerated at this prison and jail. Infractions against the law occurred between prisoners include prominent business people. Outside the jail, wagers were placed on combats, and they were seeing these televised battles in an exclusive broadcast. For them, the individual conducting these wagers, a woman named Gaga who controlled them. He is the jail warden because he provides him, and brides Boyka was about to marry him. If he battles someone else, all bets are off. In support of Boyka, there existed a combat arena. Equipped inside the jail, the inmates came to see the fighting. Boyka is notified that a battle will occur. Soon he will go for that. On the pitch, the referee instructs the fighters with instructions before Boyka's battles ignite the conflict. Due to his superior talents, he was able to avoid danger. He countered his opponent's blows with his own. He was assaulted, struck, and made his. We saw our opponent collapse to the ground. The wealthy men are happy because they gambled on. Boyka won when his opponent lost. When he again punches him and knocks him down to the ground, then hit him so that he fell consecutively until the referee halted the play. Yet, we see the opponent standing up, back and attempt to assault Boyka, but Boyka defends himself. He assaults him viciously and strikes him hard. Boyka wins the bout and the fight. Those who had placed wagers on his victory are quite pleased since they won the aide to Lady Gaga informs him that in this instance, they will fail because no opponent can match up with Boyka and not all of his opponents bet on them. Gaga informs him that he will find a solution. Meanwhile, we see the American former boxer George Chambers, who was shooting in Russia publicity for an alcoholic beverage business because of his inadequate Russian. He pronounces the name of the city improperly by the director and the producer. The company's owners were dissatisfied his performance and requested that he refilm, which resulted in George's refusal to participate. Film production once again, but his business manager Phil. He is instructed to finish filming the advertising to acquire the money and also to shift the focus on him, but he declines and returns. There were males who entered the hotel in George's room, as Phil instructed him to meet the alcohol company's proprietors during the time hotel to agree to film the advertisement, but he was unsuccessful. He said he was heading to his room to fetch something. A few things someone sees George do. His room, so he informs the others. They had placed medicines in George's system. As he arrived, he found his belongings. They defeated them, but one of them struck. His pursuit from behind caused him to lose. He recovered consciousness as he came around. Upon awakening, he located the cops and contacted them. Detectives who entered his chamber. Interrogators informed him nobody saw them leave his room and that there was no sign of their return. There were no security cameras to verify. He said during the police search of the location where they discovered a significant number of narcotics. They inquired about the medications. He mentions that it was evidently these men who put the pills in, but the cops took him into custody under heavy guard and transport him to prison jail where we find boys. Gaga is responsible for this fabrication allegation to utilize George in the argument fight so that others may place wagers on him. Boykin was aware a combatant had been brought to confront him when the trainer cut him off. Boyka severed the trainer's hand. Underhand, George arrives at the jail. All detainees are subject to strict security. Boyka and others came to observe him. Then he encounters the guard, Markov. Tells him he was a huge admirer when he was younger. Was a wrestler. He also informed him in jail is a warrior called Boyka, who is considered the prison's hero. George informs him that he wants a meeting. The U.S. ambassador in Russia will explain what occurred to him, but he refused to listen. He informs him that prior to the arrival of he will serve as the U.S. ambassador. He is incarcerated and then escorted to bathe, cursing them and requesting that they heat the river. The guards assaulted him and attempted to subdue him. Nonetheless, he smote them one by one. The commander of the guard decided to call for backup. George takes a chilly shower on his backup. A prisoner made his way to his cell. Urine is thrown at him, and a statement is made. This is Boyka's jail greeting to him. But he assaulted this prisoner when he saw him, entered the cell and called his cellmate. Stephen attempted to communicate with him and approach him. He knew him but refused to speak with him. On the second day, the guards are awakened. Stephen is going to have breakfast with the inmates. He threatens him, saying that if he does not leave, he will be arrested. The duration of his confinement in the cell where guards will lock him up. The next day, he got up and left to the dining room, and he was not there. Pleased with the quality of the meal provided to the prisoners, one who provides gives meals to the captives surreptitiously. Stephen then gave medications to the detainees, walked away from George as he attempted to approach him. Rather than sit at their table, Stephen sat with them. He attempted to communicate with him by informing him he felt content since he was seated with a hero seated at the same table. Abruptly, Boyka and his guys join the scene. We see every prisoner standing. Stephen requests that George stand like the rest the captives so as not to commit a crime. He avoids creating difficulty for himself. Thus, when Boyka sees him, he sends one his soldiers to him. Stephen departs. This individual is threatening to leave the table. George is asked to stand, but he refuses. He strikes him and then turns to Boyka. Boyka assures him he is aware and taunts him. He was once a hero, but not at this location. Boyka is the sole hero since he was able to save himself. George finishes by throwing water at Boyka. Was insulted, so he fought with him, but the guards intervened to disperse the crowd. Boyka was enraged at the warden for not allowing them to fight, but the jail warden informs him that the altercation must occur inside the ring. Phil visits George in jail and informs him that the U.S. Embassy will need further time to get him out of jail and that he would be released, will likely be incarcerated for another. George becomes very enraged and asks him to retain an attorney to get him out of prison, visits the jail and provides the warden with the funds necessary to set up a match between George and Boyka. If he does so, does he not realize what will be done to him? In the jail yard, he observes him. Boyka's guys beat Stephen because he is an idiot. Attempting to get closer to him, he is. These individuals were attempting to assist him, but he takes them out one by one. Then Stephen thanks them before leaving him, but he informs him that he is aware he is a drug addict, and he further informs him that he will assist anyone being bullied. Not only him does Stephen inform him about Gaga, as well as his friendship with the warden, the detainees, and he instructs him to remain. But he informed him that he was not just. Boyka would take care of himself. Seeing what George had done to his soldiers, he approaches him and informs him that he is the one who owns the jail prior to their use. Fight the guards to separate them. Boyka was about to enter a vehicle, yet he was so upset with George that he refused to fight. Like usual, he punched his trainer. Gaga then places wagers on the bout, contacts the warden and requests promptness. George will get into a fight with you. Boyka begins the match, followed by George observes the struggle between the convicts. Boyka's opponent was unable to keep up. Boyka admired him so much that he was boasting. He then strikes his opponent and he continues after knocking him down to strike him until the referee stops play. He then turns his attention to George and he threatens to beat him as well. When George saw a prisoner observing from a wheelchair, guards then advise him to engage in combat, that the jail warden wants a meeting with him, but he defeated them, so he was penalized. Thereafter, the jail warden arrives. He warns him that if he does not comply, if you agree to face Boyka, he will not become angry. He refused to leave the location, but the jail warden had him clean he refused to install the prison's sewers and the guard was cursed, and the guard flung one of the cleaning materials down the toilet and requested George to retrieve it while a guy arrives in a wheelchair called the Crot, persuades him to do what the guard wants. He does the task and listens to instructions. Crot continued to play his harmonica thereafter. He returns to his cell and showers. Stephen was attempting to persuade him, except the battle Boyka to escape. The jailboy's men then assaulted Stephen. After giving him some medicines, they told him that if he failed to persuade George to comply, after fighting Boyka, they would punish him. That they attempted to strike George, but he struck them instead. Them sequentially and inside In the meantime, Crot came and also struck them. The guards then seized George and locked him up. This is where he is imprisoned in a cage in a sewer, regarded as the dirtiest location they refer to it as the whole prison. Assistant warden informs Boyka they've buried George, and that's a problem. Crot may agree to fight him if he visits him in the hole and provides food and water, and he was astonished because he assists him for free but informs him that he must pay him back. The jail administrator and guards he is corrupt, and they cannot get him. He will not be released from jail until he agrees to undertake what they want. He is removed from the Gap, and we see Gaga incarcerated. There was a big luncheon to greet him, planned for them. Gaga informs him was the one responsible for his incarceration. Afterwards, they dine under heavy security. He informs him that if he does not comply if Boyka loses, he will stay inside forever, yet he informs him that the company manager will save him. While he desired to be incarcerated as quickly as possible, learns his supervisor's involvement with Lady Gaga, and he assisted her. Phil informs him that they will get if he agrees to fight, he will earn a substantial sum of money. George summoned his corporate manager with and was compelled to agree. Stephen offers to support him in the struggle. The fight and training dates are agreed upon. Arrangements are made between him and Boyka. Stephen starts to assist with his training, begins training with fervor, and Boyka maintains his intensive training. Boyka's men inform Stephen of their presence. They want him to carry out another task, and at the time of the match between, Gaga would accept wagers at his table. Nightclub, the majority of wagers were on Boyka to win. Thereafter, they enter the ring and they are introduced by the referee. George is informed by Boyka that he may be defeated without using his feet. A fight breaks out between them and George, boxing better than Boyka, and Boyka could not strike him with a fist. The men of Boyka saw George's supremacy. Amid the conflict, they requested Stephen to assist, replace the water bottle of George with another that includes anesthesia. Crot was seeing George toss with force. This was the first time Boyka took a punch, time that this occurred without his knowledge. If he is able to return blows, he is capable of fighting. He knocks him out with a knockout blow on the ground, but Boyka collects himself, strength, and rises once again, but this time, as he attacked, he used his leg, fought, and dealt mighty blows to his opponent. Then, in the first round, as hostilities cease, George requested Stephen give him a bottle of water, and he will drink it. Water is used during the second round. Beginning to feel the effects of the medication, Boyka might defeat him if he were to suddenly. With relative ease, he knocked out his opponent and won the match. George is in the match when he awakens. Jail clinic informing him that he has caught Stephen has been drugged. He was aware he had been deceived upon his return to the. He discovered Stephen had committed suicide. He committed suicide and left a note for him. He was sorry for what he had done. He was saddened by Stephen's death. And then he visits Boyka at the food court. He informs him that he won by cursing him, committing fraud by having Stephen inject a drug in a water bottle, but Boyka didn't appear. Meantime, for the jail to know about it, Warden arrives, and George informs him that he battled Boyka per their request and that they must immediately extract him from. He assured him that he would not go to prison, be freed immediately, which angered him, and the jail warden was assaulted in front of them. He is chastised and tied up with convicts. A youngster in the jail yard during the freezing weather inquires of his soldiers regarding what George stated. Admitting they did it, he was furious and informed. He informed them that he did not need such steps. To win, he gets rid of the two opponents. Individuals responsible for Phil meets Gaga. Requests more funds in return for consenting to keep George in jail. Gaga. He genuinely agrees and offers him a substantial sum of money. The amount of money he forces a lady to receive. George was evicted when he moved out. The structure fell due to the cold weather. The next day, the other inmates see him and have compassion for him and assist him. The warden is aware that inmates are assisted. George thus assembled them in the jail yard and inquired who had assisted George. He was startled to see so many inmates raise their hands, and they, so that no one could be held liable for it is the jail warden, becomes enraged and warns them that they will everyone be made to stand in the jail yard. Gaga arrives at the prison and performs, angered by what the prison warden said. He subsequently encounters George, apologizes to him for what he has done. Occurred to him, he requested that he fight. Boyka vows once more that he will release him from jail after this battle. George requests that Gaga bring trees and asks her to do so. Clothing to keep the inmates warm. Gags satisfy this need in the winter. Request and delivers clothing. Prisoners. He then begins crotch exercises. Thanks to him for having the outfits. He offers to assist him with the workout, since he has combat experience. Methods he observes Boyka using during his training as he breaks viciously someone's arm, he recalls, is Boyka's better with leg kicks than him, so he begins practicing his leg kicks. He agrees to have a trainer assist him in exercising. He instructed him on how to break Boyka's leg. The fighting boys trainer notices and he informs Boyka, but he denies it. He was interested in training George, training with tremendous fervor too, preparing for the game when George arrives. Upon entering the jail, he saw Kraut concealing his. When he inquired, he was shown images of a woman. About the female, he informed him that the girl was his niece and that she was unaware. He was imprisoned, and he informed him something his sibling carried prior. A bomb blast somewhere in Russia, and while away, Kraut traveled. Upon his return, he chose to be incarcerated instead, due to the fact that his sibling was married and his pregnant wife. He disclosed that he was a paid consultant, a contract killer for the Russian intelligence prior, and that was his rationale. His injury compelled him to sit in a wheelchair at the time he was shot. Prior attempts to escape from jail, he disclosed that his given name was not Crotch, but after Nikolai. The two continued to work out with maximum intensity. Force match day arrives, and wagers are placed on them. Nikolai bestows a new garment to George. He appreciates what he's done for him. In recent days, the two combatants fought each other. Before entering the ring, Boyka observes a sizable crowd. George was inspired by the number of inmates, observes that George wants to use his leg. The contest between them starts to battle. Because the first round is really robust, George wins the battle and strikes Boyka, him, and repeatedly knocks him to the ground. The referee closes the first round. What separates them from each other is Nikolai requests that he employ the skills he possessed. He was instructed before the second round. Boyka attempts to escape as violence ensues, but George manages to evade it. Till the conclusion of the second round, Nikolai informs him that he must prevail. Unless he wins, he will remain in jail. Then recalls the agony endured occurred when he was incarcerated and when he started the third round of the contest. He began striking Boyka with all his might, followed by knocking him to the ground and gripped his leg, remembering Nikolai's training on his broken leg. Opponent's leg, he was really able to break. Gaga breaks Boyka's leg to win the match. The remainder of the inmates. The George's victory Gaga celebration. He keeps his commitment to him and acquires him. He lets him out of jail and also gives him a